What's up, everybody? How you doing? Guess who this is? It's in the wee hours of the night on the graveyard shift, so it can only be one person. Yours truly. It's Michael. All right. I hope everybody's week is going well. It's only Tuesday, folks. Got a long way to go. Happy Tuesday nonetheless. Check this out. Here we go. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, my goodness. I forgot to mention where the coffee pot is always full, and if we run out, well, as you know, we will just make more. That's right. Entirely jacked up on too much caffeine. It's good for you, though. You're bouncing around the place all over the place. And let me just tell you, in this community in particular that I'm in tonight, I have just about figured out how to turn off all of the elevator music playing over the intercom. I just about got all the power buttons except for one. There's one that's still blazing like, Eagles songs and piano or violin. I don't know. It goes back and forth between the two, but I'm going to find that button if it kills me. Anyways, I'm here in North Hills for the next couple of days. Then I'll be in Cary this weekend. The Cary community, folks. I'm roving. I'm a rover. I'm a traveling Wilbury, man. That's what I ask. That's what I do. Anyhow, I digress. Let's get right to it, folks. The answer to the previous trivia question. If you didn't figure it out, and I got a lot of different answers. I got like communism, just a whole slew of answers populated in my inboxes, right? But the answer to the previous trivia question was an Iron Curtain by Winston Churchill's very famous speech. So this very famous Iron Curtain speech, as it went down in history, was by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill following World War II. And it was actually given in the United States in Fulton, Missouri. You would be surprised how many people know of the speech, have heard of the speech, but do not know that he actually gave that great speech as the great orator that he was in the United States on March 5th, 1946. Most people think he did it in his homeland of UK or at the Yalta Conference, etc. I got all kinds of different feedback from people about that. But it was in the United States, and during this speech, Churchill, as he had done previously, stressed the necessity for the United States and Britain, who were allies, of course, in World War II, to act as the guardians of peace and stability against Soviet communism. That was the underlying theme of the speech. The metaphor, Iron Curtain, Churchill used to describe the political, military-based, and overall ideology of communism that Joseph Stalin was pushing forward at the time as an Iron Curtain blanket of sorts. That was the Soviets had lowered across Europe in an effort to accomplish many things. Check off many boxes. One of them was communism overall, which I cited there. The prevention of contact with those countries dependent upon the Soviet and other European non-communist regions, right? In other words, our potential allies, right? He was cutting off communication with those other countries post-World War II, and a further exertion of firm control over most of the countries of Eastern Europe. An overall concession, a term known as concession, which Stalin demanded be carried out with no limits. So Stalin was playing everybody. He had some goals in mind of his own, right? As far as the Soviets go, as far as communism go. All of these criteria and these efforts by Stalin and the Soviets in a new and still unfolding post-war war, remember this is new for everybody globally, is precisely what Churchill meant when he cited the infamous Iron Curtain that blanketed Europe at the time that we all needed to be leery of. And in saying so, in referencing the now often quoted metaphor, Churchill was convinced that the Soviets would temper their ambitions if confronted about their communist ideology. In other words, tread carefully. In other words, he was citing and referencing the very beginning of the Cold War. Right? Now let's talk about the speech just a little bit. Churchill was personally invited by President Truman. A lot of people don't know that either, to come to Westminster College there in Fulton, Missouri, where he delivered the famous Iron Curtain speech. Churchill was also no longer the prime minister, and a lot of people don't realize that either. He was defeated after World War II. He was no longer the prime minister of the UK at the time, and That's a pretty good trivia question too, by the way. I might put that in my mental file and mix that around at some point in time. He had been defeated shortly after World War II, like I said, and he did, however, serve again, and that's where a lot of people make that mistake. He was selected again as prime minister in 1951. He retired almost 4 years later because of health reasons related to a stroke. A couple of cool geek factoids about Churchill, the Iron Curtain speech post-World War II, all that good stuff. Churchill toured the United States for a total of 3 months during the time he made the famous Iron Curtain speech. So he was in the country for a while, which went down in history as one of the most famous speeches emphasizing the dangers of communism, and quite possibly, like I referenced before, the onset of what would culminate in the Cold War. Of course, involving Joseph Stalin as a primary figure. Churchill died in January of 1965. He is buried at his family's plot, which I think was pretty cool. If you've ever taken a class in public speaking, which is pretty much a requirement in your undergraduate experience, or if you're like me who worked his way up community college and then transferred to university, you will take a public speaking class at some point in time. Or if you ever study the great orators of our time, you will undoubtedly come across many figures, and one of those figures will be, undoubtedly, Mr. Winston Churchill. All right, folks, let's keep on trucking through the week, and let's get through this Tuesday. Shall we? Let's do it right here and right now with a brand new trivia question for March 7th on this day. Check this out. Speaking of World War II, all right, we're going to go back just a little ways on this day in 1936 by sending German military forces into established demilitarized zones along the Rhine River. Nazi leader Adolf Hitler violates this treaty from 1919, which had served to end World War II, and which Hitler himself greatly resented. Good luck, folks. That's a Megadeth for you right now. Come on. Peace out.